Something big is going to happen in the Caribbean Sea in the last few weeks. American warships have not only stopped the ships of Venezuela, fired missiles at them, but also captured some of the ships. In response to this, Venezuela's president Nicolas Maduro deployed his navy ships in this sea, after which the sea, which is a paradise for tourists, has now become a battle zone. But the question is, why is America going to open a new war zone so close to its border? And why has Venezuela, which used to be a collapsing petro-state, suddenly become so important? And how is the Caribbean's geography, its oil reserves, and its history altogether making it so important for America? Make sure to watch this video till the end, because today we are going to talk about the past, present and future of this conflict, whose effects are not only on this Western Hemisphere, but are going to affect the whole world. Why is the situation so bad in the Caribbean Sea? To understand this, let's understand the geography here. The Caribbean Sea looks small, but its location makes it very important in world politics. It is just 150 kilometers below Florida, very close to America, and not only connects South and North America together, but also connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Panama Canal, which is the world's busiest sea trade corridor. More than 14,000 sea vessels and millions of tons of goods pass through here every year. Whoever controls the Caribbean basically controls the trade of the two largest seas in the world. Venezuela is right in the center of this trade hotspot. Along with the Caribbean Sea, its coastline is about 2,800 kilometers long, which makes it one of the largest coastline countries in South America. On this coastline, there are large seaports and naval bases such as Puerto Cabello, La Guaira and Maracaibo. From oil, the Malamao Gulf of Venezuela and Lake Maracaibo Basin are not only export hubs, but are also very close to international shipping lanes. And this is Venezuela's biggest weakness and strength. And the eastern side of Venezuela is the Essequibo region, which is currently in dispute with Guyana. This area has been neglected for a long time, but now large oil reserves have been discovered here, which have further increased the importance of this region. If Venezuela takes it under its control, its hold in the Caribbean will increase even more. It will reach very close to the Atlantic trade routes. But this location of Venezuela also keeps it right on the target of America and its allies. Like it is only 800 kilometers from Puerto Rico, only 30 kilometers from Dutch islands such as Aruba and Curacao, and is a short flight distance from the American base in Florida. This means that if there is a fight in this area, America will automatically get involved in it. But geography is only half the story. Venezuela's real power is hidden under its soil, and that is oil. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, about 304 billion barrels. These reserves are much larger than Saudi Arabia's 267 billion barrels and America's 70 billion barrels. And most of these reserves are here in the Orinoco Belt, which is in the north of the Orinoco River. This oil is very crude and thick, and it is also very difficult to refine it. But it is in such a large quantity that the whole world knows the importance of Venezuela. Because of this oil, Venezuela was once one of the richest countries in Latin America. In the 1970s, Venezuela pumped 3 million barrels of oil daily, and it was mostly exported to America. At that time, Caracas was not an ordinary capital, but an energy superpower. Because of this oil, large buildings, highways, and cities were populated in Venezuela. There was a time when Venezuela's per capita GDP was higher than that of Spain and Greece. Even by the beginning of the year 2000, the fuel in America's cars and planes came from Venezuela. But this oil also became Venezuela's biggest weakness. At the end of the 1980s, when oil prices fell, Venezuela's economy collapsed. Corruption, mismanagement, and political unrest worsened the situation further. In the 1990s, one after another economic crises came, and finally in 1999, Hugo Chavez became the president of Venezuela. Initially, due to his socialist policies, there was a lot of boom in the oil industry, but then when oil prices fell in 2010, there was a severe crisis in Venezuela. By 2015, the economic situation in Venezuela had deteriorated. In 2013, after the death of Hugo Chavez, Nicolas Maduro had become president. Maduro inherited a devastating economy that relied on the Bolivar and revolution and oil to a dangerous extent. Very soon, inflation reached triple digits, and protests began all over the country. In the same year, the opposition gained control of Venezuela's National Assembly, which put Maduro's government in danger. In response, President Maduro began to strengthen his grip on power, sidelined institutions, and used security forces to crush the opposition. This was a turning point for Washington. In 2015, the United States formally declared Venezuela a threat to its national security, and this also laid the foundation for future sanctions. Since 2015, Washington has imposed more than 900 sanctions on Venezuela, including targeting Venezuelan government oil companies, banks, shipping, gold exports, and even senior officials. The aim of all this was to deprive Nicolas Maduro's government of money and force them to leave their seats. These sanctions destroyed oil production and pushed Venezuela into the worst economic crisis of its history. More than 7 million Venezuelans were forced to take refuge in Colombia, Brazil, and other countries. But despite all this, Venezuela survived by selling cheap oil to countries like China, India, and Russia. China has invested billions of dollars in Venezuela oil fields through loans and infrastructure projects. India is buying cheap crude oil from Caracas so that it can be refined in its country. And Russia has offered financial backing and military cooperation to obtain Venezuelan energy. Even American firms like Chevron are working under special licenses, because by completely blocking Venezuelan oil, global supply will decrease and fuel prices will increase for American customers. So basically, these sanctions destroyed Venezuela's economy, but they failed to change the regime. Now here's a big question: why doesn't America ignore Venezuela at first glance? Its obvious answer is its strategic location and large oil reserves. But in reality, this is just the beginning. The story inside is very interesting for Washington. Venezuela represents something much bigger. It is actually a threat to the control of the United States and the Western Hemisphere. Since the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, America has considered Latin America as its backyard, meaning a zone where no other country can interfere. But Venezuela has first challenged this ideology under Hugo Chavez and now under Nicolas Maduro. Russian military advisors, Chinese loans, and even Iranian drones are now part of Venezuela's defense system. The Caribbean, which was once considered the safe zone of America, is now full of foreign stakeholders, and it doesn't end here. Venezuela is in South America, but its oil wealth also connects it to the Middle East, with proven oil reserves of more than 304 billion barrels, which is the largest in the world. Venezuela is one of the few countries that can change the global energy balance. For many years, America has relied on Middle East oil, which has benefited countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Iran. Gulf choke points such as Strait of Hormuz, Bab al-Mandeb, and the Suez Canal became flashpoints because the world relied a lot on the oil passing through here. But if Washington gets access to Venezuelan oil, which is only 4 days away from its Gulf Coast refinery, then it can reduce its reliance on the Middle East. This will greatly reduce Saudi Arabia's influence in OPEC. The leverage to block Iran's choke point will be exhausted, and even Russia's grip on Europe's energy supplies will be weakened. In simple words, control over Venezuela is not only important for America, it can also shift the balance of power between the Middle East and other regions. Countries that have been using this oil as a leverage can always be in danger. This is why the Caribbean War is much bigger than Latin America. And this is why things are heating up in the Caribbean. In September 2025, the US Navy attacked ships that were accused of being part of the Venezuelan drug smuggling network. Just a few days later, American forces also launched a Venezuelan fishing boat in the same sea. This was not an anti-drug operation for Venezuela, but an attack on its sovereignty. President Nicolas Maduro gave a strong response. He announced in 184 battlefronts owns in Venezuela that he would deploy his army, police, and militias in defense of this foreign aggression. He said that there is a threat of war in Venezuela, and that too, just a few kilometers away from its coastline. But this clash is much bigger than the control of drugs or fishing boats. This is a fight for the control of the Caribbean Sea. Washington wants to show that it can monitor this area and maintain its influence, while Venezuela wants to prove that it cannot be suppressed. Attacks on drugs and fishing boats are actually warning signs of a very big struggle, the opposite of the wars in Ukraine or the Middle East. The Caribbean is right at the door of America. America's southern ports, its Gulf oil refineries and Panama Canal all rely on those shipping routes that pass through these waters. Any obstacle here will immediately affect American trade, energy and military. This is why an aggressive Venezuela, especially backed by Russia, China and Iran, is a big threat to America. This whole crisis is also very important for Venezuela. President Maduro is facing an economic crisis and political instability in his country. That's why the conflict in the Caribbean gives him a chance to unite his people, by militaries in coastal areas, assigning troops in these battlefront zones and uniting with foreign powers. He can challenge American imperialism. This will strengthen his grip on the chair, while complicating things for Washington. But history shows how dangerous this kind of conflict can be. In 1962, due to the Cuban Missile Crisis, there was a nuclear war in the Caribbean. And even today, this geography has not changed at all. Florida is also very close to these waters. Panama Canal is still a global choke point, and these islands are still vulnerable. What has changed is the player. Instead of Cuba and the Soviet Union, it is now Venezuela.